New Orleans Saints playmakers have no choice but to show up and show out against the Chicago Bears if they want to get a win on Sunday. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I'm your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media, covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, I'll tell you why it's not just Alvin Kamara who wants to finish his career here in New Orleans. Expect Dennis Allen to turn up the heat against second-year quarterback Spencer Rattler on Sunday. And it's time for the New Orleans Saints playmakers to show up and show out on the road against the Chicago Bears. We got all that coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The New Orleans Saints need their playmakers to show up and show out up against the Chicago Bears if the team wants to get a victory on Sunday, and a victory that, by the way, can be an absolute statement for the New Orleans Saints. A legacy starter, perhaps, for Kellen Moore would be a big-time opportunity for Spencer Rattler to prove something, and of course, several other players on offense and defense and beyond with an opportunity to prove something against their former head coach, who's now the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, and much more. This is a major opportunity for the New Orleans Saints. Let's just call it what it is. This is one of those games that packs so much emotion, that packs so much intent, that packs so much history, that winning a game like this can be a massive statement and a massive confidence builder. And on the other hand, losing a game like this could be something that absolutely destroys confidence and morale. This, to me, is one of the Saints' most important games. I felt that way since the schedule was released. This, to me, is one of the most important games of the New Orleans Saints' present era. Not 2025 season, not new head coach first year, not rebuild. This, to me, is one of the most important games for the New Orleans Saints' new era as a whole. I think that we'll be pointing to this game at some point in the future and looking at it as one of four ways. Either they won the game and that set them on the right trajectory moving forward, even though that might not necessarily mean wins for this year, but confidence building, feel good-edness, all that comes out of it. Number two, they win the game and then go on to disappoint, because then you'll be like, man, it really felt like they had something here. Beating a team with a winning record, beating a team in an emotional matchup, beating the former head coach, all that, and then after that, right? That would be another piece of the storyline. Another piece of the storyline would be that they lose this game and things continue to from there, right? Not go well. And then the final thing is that they lose this game and then yet still somehow at another point, this becomes like the low point, and then you're like, man, they really dug their way out of that at a later time. So for me, like, this is a pivot point, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for the New Orleans Saints. And if the Saints want to make the best out of this, the opportunity is there for Chris Olave, for running back Rashid Shaheed, for another wide receiver outside of Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed, running back Alvin Kamara, my apologies. Running back Kendre Miller, tight end Juwan Johnson, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, running back, fullback, kick return specialist, whatever, Taysom Hill, right? On the offensive side in particular, when we're talking about the playmakers there, this is a massive game. This feels like one of those games where, like, if they show up and all of a sudden this offense is cooking at a gear that we didn't expect them to cook, or they just get going in a way that we didn't think that they would get going, that's going to absolutely stand out. You're talking about on the road, winning team, all the emotion that's a part of it, massive game. Chris Olave said on Thursday when he spoke with us and spoke with media that if the ball hits his hands, hits his fingers, he's got to catch it. I'm paraphrasing. There's an awareness there. He didn't hide from the criticism at all. So can you now make good on it? Can we get back to the Chris Olave making the circus catches over AJ Terrell or whoever the Falcons are marching out at cornerback these days? Can the running backs get back to the point to where they're finally crossing the 20-yard threshold on a run? Still no 20-yard rushes for the New Orleans Saints so far this season. Long of 18, it was a touchdown, Kendre Miller. So can the Saints rebuild what it is? Can they get that big, long breakaway play from Taysom Hill? Can they get things going in the red zone on the offensive side? Then on the defensive side, which, by the way, playmakers are on defense too. Brandon Staley said on Thursday that Chase Young was this close to making some big plays and that he just wants to see him finish those plays, and talked a little bit about the ripple effect of Chase Young being on the field and how that opens up the game for other players. Can they take advantage of those opportunities? Can Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, Alante Taylor, and Justin Reed, that New Orleans Saints defensive back group, that secondary, can they rebound from several mishaps last week? Can Kool-Aid McKinstry get back to where he was up against the New York Giants when he was in position to make plays and then made the plays, as opposed to being in position to make plays and then being just short? Can they get that done? And I think Kool-Aid can absolutely do that. I'm probably still the highest person on Kool-Aid, but don't worry, I'm loading up my I told you so. I'm just kidding. You know me. I'm not an I told you so person. But I think this is a very, very important game. And I'm not even saying that the Saints are going to win. I'm not even saying that this is an important game that they're absolutely going to walk away with. You've heard my predictions. I gave a prediction in the Crossover Thursday episode yesterday. I gave my prediction as well in the squad show on Thursday. Shout out to Darian Gray picking the Saints. So I might not even necessarily believe going into this game that the Saints are going to win it, but I do believe that this is a game that they need. And that this is one of those foundational wins that sits in front of them if they can find a way to get this done, to beat the number 1 overall selection with the 5th round selection from that same draft class who was benched for that number 1 overall selection in Caleb Williams back in 2021 during the Red River Showdown. And then set forth a diverging path of 2 quarterbacks who again met up in the 2024 NFL Draft. Caleb Williams going in the 1st round, number 1 overall. Spencer Rattler going in the 5th round to the New Orleans Saints. And then now they're on the same playing field doing the same thing. One of them's leading a 1-5 team, the other's leading a 3-2 team. And nothing, no win so far this season, no game so far this season would be more important than the New Orleans Saints walking away from this matchup 2-4 with a win. I think this is a massive game for the New Orleans Saints. And finding a way for all those playmakers to go out there and make plays, not almost make plays, not be in position, not be close, not play well, but go out there and make those plays. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Finding ways to put points on the board, touchdowns instead of field goals. Taking shots, throw an interception. It's fine. As long as you're also throwing some touchdowns. Go out there, take some risks, be aggressive. That's what the New Orleans Saints need to do this weekend to get a win. In order to do that, they need their playmakers to, like we said, show up and show out. Coming up next, expect Dennis Allen, though, to bring the heat up against a quarterback with which he is very familiar in young passer Spencer Rattler. We got that coming up for you next. We continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, your team every day. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Did you know that October 10th was World Mental Health Day? And this year we're saying, thank you, therapist. Life can be tough both on and off the field, and behind every mental health journey are the therapists who showed up, listened, and helped people take a step forward. I'd like to say thank you to Stacy. Stacy's been my therapist for a couple of years now through BetterHelp since 2020 during the pandemic, and has helped me big time when it comes to navigating some big time life events, to learning some inconvenient truths about myself and how to handle them, and also equipping me with the tools that I need to be a better person on the daily. So as we extend the World Mental Health Day celebration, please join us in celebrating therapists who have helped millions take a step forward. If you're ready to start your journey, just like I did with BetterHelp, you can find help that you need with the right therapists, our listeners, will get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss out on the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. And don't worry, it's not just football season. They've got basketball for you as well. One of my favorite things that Prize Picks does is making sure that you're getting those new max discounts. So for instance, there's a promotion going on right now for the October 21st game between the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers. Steph Curry is discounted, only needing to score more than half of a point in order to win. Mix and match those players from football, basketball, baseball, and more to build your dream lineup. Today, just choose more or less on 2 to 6 players and you're in. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, family, you should absolutely expect former head coach, now Chicago Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen to turn up the pressure and turn up the heat on young quarterback Spencer Rattler. I want to take a look at a comparison of what Dennis Allen's defense did the first 4 weeks and what they did last week after the bye week. You know, a lot of people hate early bye weeks, but early bye weeks really do give you an opportunity to go out there as a football team and start to make those big adjustments based upon what it is that you've learned over the course of the early season. And I think that the Chicago Bears have done that on both sides of the football. If we've got time, I'll go through some of the things that Ben Johnson's done on offense as well. But I really, really want to focus in on the defensive side because I think it's going to be the Saints offense that wins this game for them if the Saints win the game, right? We ask the question every week. The Saints win if, that's not really a question, but we do a fill in the blank. We do a fill in the blank. The Saints win if. And sometimes we crack jokes and we say luck. Sometimes we crack jokes and we say field goals, like whatever it might be. But honestly, like the Saints win this game if their offense cooks in a way that we've not seen it cook before, which makes it feel unlikely. I get that, 100%. I understand. But if the Saints do want to win this game, the way that they're going to have to do it is by winning on offense. The tricky part is that Dennis Allen is awful familiar with Spencer Rattler. If you look at the first 4 weeks of the Chicago Bears defense, they played 50% of their defense in what we call middle of field closed looks. That means a safety is in the middle of the field. So cover 1, everyone's in man, and there's 1 deep zone safety. Cover 3, there's a deep zone safety in the middle, 2 dropping defensive backs that split the field up into thirds along with that safety, and then it might be some zone underneath. That the opposite of that would be middle of field open, cover 2 with the 2 deep safeties, or cover 4 with the 4 deep defensive backs, which leaves the middle of the field technically open because there's not someone literally in the middle of the field, right? Think Marcus Williams versus what the Saints have done so far this season. That changed big time up against the Washington Commanders in week 4, Monday night, as the Bears were coming off of the bye week. Instead of it being 50%, which is what our friends over at True Media have for the middle of field closed defense, it turned into over 76%. So they played a lot of middle of field safety. What does it mean when a defense plays a lot of middle of field safety? Well, basically what they're saying is, go ahead and throw if you want to. I'm stopping your run game. That's effectively what that means. You hear a lot about shell fest or playing a lot of too high shell. Too high shell is cover 2 with a middle of field open look, which is built to take away the deep ball. It's what everyone started doing it's really what everybody's doing this year. Like it's the wave right now across the NFL on defense is take the deep ball away and force everything to stay underneath. It's why points are down, yards are down, passing yards are down, all that kind of stuff. Or were down at one point in the season. So what the Chicago Bears have said is, no, forget all that. Listen here. If you want to beat us, you're going to have to run the football, but we're going to stop your run game. We're going to make you one-dimensional. Now you have to throw. And then they try to take advantage of that. It's why the Chicago Bears have 8 interceptions so far on the season, because they're aggressive at that point, or at the point of attack. Now, the shift that happened going up against Washington earlier this week gives you an indication that, like, yeah, okay, they might be looking to change some things on defense, or they're just putting something slightly on tape for a second before they switch things up against New Orleans. But I think you're going to see a lot of that carryover here going up against New Orleans because they know that the Saints want to run the football. They know it's a Kellen Moore offense, and Kellen Moore wants to run the football. They also know that this offense right now has struggled to be consistent in the passing game, and that in the games in which they've been most competitive, San Francisco, Buffalo, New York, obviously, the run game worked. Now, whether it worked on a per carry basis, whether it worked on an overall yardage basis, different by game, but that has been the entry point to success so far for the New Orleans Saints has been their run game, which we knew was going to be the case once they hired Kellen Moore. So that's effectively what I expect Dennis Allen's defense to do. Here's the other thing that I expect Dennis Allen's defense to do. In the first 4 games of the season, weeks 1 through 4, the Chicago Bears blitz at the 25th highest rate. The other way to say that is the 7th lowest rate in the NFL, right? Not a very blitz-heavy team. They were hovering around 20-ish, 20-something%. Well, after the bye week, week 6, going up against the Washington Commanders, that ticked up to about 37%, 4th highest in the league. I expect that you're going to see that against Spencer Rattler as well. Why? Because Dennis Allen watched Spencer Rattler struggle against pressure last year. Now, Spencer Rattler has gotten better against pressure this year, but there is going to be an overall assumption that because he struggled with it, and Dennis Allen saw that Dennis Allen knows exactly how to get to the core of what it is that Spencer Rattler struggled to do last year, which was manage pressure. And Spencer Rattler was under a lot of pressure last year because the Saints were playing their 3rd string offensive line in a lot of cases. Spencer Rattler completed just 44% of his passes under pressure last year for a passer rating of 56.4. That's way down from where he was when kept clean. Now, so far here in 2025, he has completed 60% of his passes while under pressure and has a passer rating of 90.2. And people want to know why it is that we think that Spencer Rattler has truly developed and is improving. There's your sign, right? That's a dated reference for you. Anybody know that one? But despite the fact that Spencer Rattler has clearly improved under pressure, when under pressure, there is something to the idea of putting him under more pressure, right? And putting him under your pressure when you know him. Spencer Rattler's been under pressure so far, according to Pro Football Focus, 37.9% of the time. Not very different than last year, 37.1% of the time over the course of his 7-game, 6 starts. So expect Dennis Allen to turn up the heat and expect a lot of disguised looks and challenging the Saints to throw the football by trying to take away their run game. The two things go hand in hand. If I can take away your run game and then pressure your quarterback because the passing game is the only thing that you've got left because you're one-dimensional right now, I'm going to do that. And I think that that's what you're going to see Dennis Allen do. We'll see how Spencer Rattler, Kellen Moore, and the New Orleans Saints offense handle it. Coming up next, he'll have some help from guys like Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave, who don't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon. Maybe. We got that coming for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda crafts and delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, you know how it is. Athletes sweat every single detail, and Mazda brings the same level of detail and intention to how they craft every single model. Isn't that awesome? You can feel that fantastic craftsmanship as well in every detail, everything from metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery, making everyday drives feel like anything but, from that smooth handling, the intuitive controls, and don't forget about that all-wheel drive that comes standard with every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the players you know and love, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at Rougiette. What do you get when you combine the big win on a Sunday with the game-winning shot on a Tuesday night for your favorite basketball team to, of course, sinking one yourself when you go out to the park. Well, you get a lot of confidence when you see all of that kind of stuff happening around you. And so if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill to help you build your confidence, well, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. Rougiette Go Long isn't just an ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence, combining two doctor-trusted medications into a dual-action formula so that you can make sure that you're ready to go the distance with effects lasting up to 36 hours. Get ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom. Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off of your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure that you use the code so that they know that we sent you. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave both sound off on the trade rumors around them, and it doesn't sound like either of them expect to be headed anywhere anytime soon. We appreciate you very much for being here with us every single Monday through Friday as we get you everything you need to know about your New Orleans Saints. Don't forget we have the Insider Program, which you can join by clicking the link in the description or texting Who Dat to 504-285-7473. Get it on film studies, exclusive Q&As, one-on-one conversation, advanced information, all that good stuff. We'll have all that for you here on Locked On Saints with the Insider Program and much more on the way for everydayers as well. Be on the lookout for that. And don't forget, you can catch us every Monday through Friday as well over on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. All right, so the New Orleans Saints, of course, are the belle of the ball when it comes to everything that's going on with trade deadlines, right? They're 1-5. Everyone expects them to fire sale. I wouldn't be surprised to see a player or two or a player moved and everything like that. Like, it wouldn't shock me if it happened. But what I'm certain of is that the Saints aren't actively shopping their players around. Now, I'm sure that if the phone rings, they'll answer, but I don't think that they're necessarily making anybody else's phone ring. You know what I mean? And so we've heard a lot of rumors so far that, the Saints are actively shopping Chris Olave. I don't know if I buy that. That they were conversations with Alvin Kamara. Would you like to go somewhere? Should an opportunity present itself? All that. Well, both Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed were asked about that on Thursday and gave some pretty great answers. Alvin Kamara was very clear, as he always has been. Look, 2 summers ago when Cam Jordan got his extension, I asked Alvin Kamara about Cam Jordan's extension. What do you think about Cam Jordan getting an opportunity to finish his career as a New Orleans Saint? And Alvin Kamara turned and looked at me and said, I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about me. When am I getting my extension? Then the next year when we were in Irvine, California for training camp, I stood right in front of him and I said, hey, Alvin, you said last year that you would very much like to finish your career as a New Orleans Saint. Is that still the case? And he gave a very upfront, as he so often does, answer in saying, yes, he wants to finish his career as a New Orleans Saint. On Thursday, he reiterated it again. When asked about some of the reports around him and Mickey Loomis having conversations and all those other things, he kind of said, I don't know where that came from. But what I do know is that, as I have said over and over again, I'm paraphrasing for him, but basically, as he has said over and over again, he wants to finish his career here in New Orleans. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. And he said, look, it's a business. He understands that. If he was a general manager, he would want to go to a player and tell them that they were being traded. And so if Mickey Loomis did that, he'd probably go and have a pina colada somewhere, which I take to mean possibly that he'd rather retire to a beach and have a pina colada than play anywhere else. But maybe I'm reading into it too much. I'll try to ask him in the locker room today. But it just goes to show that nothing has changed with Alvin Kamara, and that Alvin Kamara doesn't need a report to tell you that he wants to be here in New Orleans. He has told you 3 times in 4 years now already that he has no intent on being anywhere else. Now, whether or not the New Orleans Saints abide by that or honor that, that's a business call, right? It's not the end of the world if they do trade him. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened if they do trade him in terms of, him saying, I want to be here, but then trading him. Like, that happens a lot in the NFL. But I don't think that the Saints are in any hurry to trade away one of their biggest locker room leaders and one of the emotional centers of their team while they're undergoing a rebuild, which needs emotional leaders and emotional centers for their team. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would be more than surprised if he was traded than I would be if he was not traded. That's for certain. Alvin Kamara, very important to this organization, and honestly, very important to this fan base as well if you want to keep selling some tickets. Chris Olave also said that he had had conversations with people inside the building and then he feels very confident. Now, I take that to mean that he's had some upfront conversations with folks in the building and that he takes it that he is confident that he won't be moved, I think is what he means by that. But he didn't want to elaborate too much on the details of that, which I understand. You want to keep some of those conversations private. You want to keep that between you and the organization, everything like that. But what I loved about what Chris Olave talked about on Thursday beyond that was, and by the way, Chris Olave has also said that he wants to spend his career here in New Orleans in the past. He's also said that before. And so now you've got both of these guys that are absolute, top level playmakers on your team that need to do things a little bit better in some cases. I think Chris Olave talked about that. If the ball hits my hands or hits my fingertips, I need to catch it. He knows. He knows. It's no mystery to anybody. That's why I always chuckle whenever it's like, oh, well, this player needs to do this player needs to do that. They know. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to do better than we do. And so I think that when you hear a guy like Chris Olave kind of come up and accept that accountability, right? Put that accountability and volunteer it himself, and also say, you know what? And have said in the past, like, I want to be here. I think all that means something. I think all that should mean something. And so the New Orleans Saints don't look like they're going to be fire sailing. They don't look like sailing. They don't look like they're going to be shipping off important emotional centers of their team or anything like that. But it sure does look like this is a team that has a lot of buy-in from some of its most important players. And that's why those guys got to show up on Sunday if the New Orleans Saints want to get a dub in Chicago going up against their former head coach in Dennis Allen and the Bears. So we'll see. One other thing that I want to highlight is that along with the top playmaker types getting involved in making plays in this game, one of the other things that I'm very interested in seeing is how much they continue to rotate in some of their young players. We saw Isaiah Stalbird consistently over the course of the past couple of weeks has been rotated in at linebacker in place of Pete Werner on third downs. The opportunity to play in some of those open space plays. It's a speed guy that can help you wrangle in some mobile quarterbacks and things like that. Pretty good week for him to be involved on third downs. Meanwhile, Danny Stutsman was involved, and I asked Brandon Staley, was there, a rhyme or reason behind when you decided to put in Danny Stutsman? It was game plan. They went the third drive in the first half, third drive in the second half. Pete Werner knew it. Danny Stutsman knew it. That way everybody was able to plan for it. So very intrigued to see if those guys continue to get more run, because I think the more that you learn about those young players, the better off your future is going to be. And the more exposure they get, the better they will be when you actually need to rely on them on the field. All right, y'all, don't forget the squad show will be live after Sunday's game. Win or lose, make sure you come through for that. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, N-O-L-A. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing, how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.